$1,000 to pretend to be her boyfriend for a weekend. Just a simple favor. Stand beside her at a wedding. Hold her hand. Convince her family she had finally moved on. Nothing more. But 2 years later, that same man was on one knee in front of her, holding a ring. And what he said next made Emily realize something terrifying. The fake relationship she thought she created may never have been fake at all. Emily Carter was 32 years old, successful, independent, and living a quiet life in Seattle. On paper, everything about her life looked stable. She owned a small but beautiful condo downtown. She had a growing career in marketing. Her weekends were calm, morning coffee by the window, yoga classes, brunch with friends. But every holiday gathering came with the same uncomfortable moment. Someone would eventually ask the question, "So, are you seeing anyone yet?" Emily would smile politely and shake her head. Her younger sister had already been married for 3 years. Her cousins were starting families. Even some of her college friends were posting baby photos online. But Emily had spent the last 4 years alone. Not because she couldn't find someone, but because the last man she trusted had destroyed her ability to trust anyone again. For years earlier, Emily had been engaged to a man named David. He was everything she thought she wanted: charming, ambitious, attentive. They moved into an apartment together, planned their future, talked about traveling the world after their wedding. Emily believed she had found the person she would spend the rest of her life with. Until the afternoon she accidentally discovered the truth. David had another life, another woman, another apartment, and a relationship he had been hiding for years. The betrayal shattered her. Emily ended the engagement immediately, moved out, and slowly rebuilt a life where she never had to depend on anyone again. By the time she turned 30, she had learned to enjoy her independence. But then one day, a letter arrived in the mail that threatened to reopen everything she had buried. A wedding invitation. Emily opened it casually until she read the names printed inside. David was getting married. The wedding would take place in the same small coastal town where Emily's extended family lived, which meant everyone expected her to attend. Emily could already picture the room. The awkward silence when she walked in. The whispers. The pitying looks. And worst of all, David standing there with his new bride. That's when an idea formed in her mind. A ridiculous one. She would bring a boyfriend. Not a real one. Just someone convincing enough to make the questions stop. At first, the idea felt impossible. But after a conversation with a friend, she heard about a man named Daniel Brooks. Daniel was an actor. Sometimes he took unusual jobs, private events, promotional appearances, and occasionally pretending to be someone's date when needed. Emily felt embarrassed even considering it. But eventually curiosity won. She agreed to meet him. They sat across from each other in a quiet cafe downtown. Daniel was 42, calm, confident, and surprisingly easy to talk to. He had the relaxed presence of someone who understood people well. Emily explained the situation. He listened without judgment. The arrangement was simple. Daniel would attend the wedding weekend with her, hold her hand, smile for photos, pretend they had been dating for 6 months. In return, Emily would pay him $1,000. Strictly professional. No emotional involvement. Just a performance. Daniel agreed. The wedding weekend arrived. From the moment they stepped into the reception hall, Daniel slipped effortlessly into the role. He greeted her parents warmly, joked with her cousins, helped her aunt carry plates from the buffet table. But the moment that mattered most came when David finally noticed them. Across the room, their eyes met. David's confident smile faltered. Emily felt her stomach tighten. But Daniel gently squeezed her hand and leaned closer. "Relax," he whispered softly. "I've got you." And somehow, she believed him. For the first time in years, Emily didn't feel embarrassed or defeated in that room. She felt strong, protected, almost happy. When the weekend ended, Emily paid Daniel and assumed the arrangement was over. They hugged goodbye outside the hotel. But before leaving, Daniel paused. "If you ever need a fake boyfriend again," he said with a playful smile, "you know where to find me." Emily laughed. But 2 weeks later, she called him. Not because she needed another performance. Just for coffee. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long conversations. Months passed. Then a year. Somewhere along the way, the act quietly faded away. But Emily still kept a small wall around her heart. Because the truth was, their relationship had started as a lie. And she never quite knew if it had truly changed. 2 years later, on a cool autumn evening, Daniel asked her to meet him at the cafe where they first met. They sat quietly for a few minutes. Then Daniel stood up, reached into his pocket, and dropped to one knee. Emily's heart nearly stopped. Daniel opened a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. Her mind raced with questions. Was this real? Or was this somehow still part of the act? Finally, she asked the only thing she could think of. Daniel, are you serious? Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he said something she never expected to hear. Emily, there's something I should have told you a long time ago. Her stomach tightened. Daniel took a slow breath. The day you hired me for that wedding, it wasn't actually the first time I met you. Emily blinked in confusion. What do you mean? Daniel smiled softly. 3 years before that wedding, we met at a bookstore downtown. You probably don't remember. Emily searched her memory. But nothing came. Daniel continued. You were standing in the travel section. You were talking to a friend about visiting Italy someday. I tried to start a conversation with you, but you were in a hurry. You smiled politely and left. Emily felt a strange chill run through her. Daniel's voice softened. But I never forgot you. He looked down at the ring in his hand. So when your friend called me about the fake boyfriend job and mentioned your name, I realized something unbelievable. Emily's heart pounded. You were the same woman from the bookstore. She stared at him. You're saying you already knew me? Daniel nodded. I didn't take the job because of the money. He gave a quiet laugh. I took it because I thought it might be the only chance I'd ever have to see you again. Emily felt tears filling her eyes. All those moments. All those conversations. The kindness. The patience. It hadn't been part of an act. Daniel had chosen to stay from the very beginning. The only fake thing about our relationship, he said gently, was how we introduced it. Emily looked at the ring again, then back at him. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in love again. She said yes. Today, whenever people ask Emily how she met her husband, she smiles and gives the simple version. She says she hired a fake boyfriend for a wedding and somehow ended up marrying him. But the real truth? He had been